Right now, somewhere in the world, a bird is stumbling around on the grass, completely unable to fly straight, and scientists in Los Angeles have actually filmed this happening because the bird ate berries that sat in the sun too long and started to ferment. And if you think that sounds like a silly cartoon moment, stick around because the real story is so much older and so much stranger than a drunk bird, and it might actually explain how alcohol influenced human evolution. Long before humans built houses, discovered fire, or even looked anything like modern humans, our ancestors were already getting a taste of alcohol, and it did not come from a bottle or a brewery. It came from the forest floor itself. Here is how it worked. Tiny invisible yeast is floating everywhere in the air, landing on tree bark and clinging to the skin of wild fruit, and yeast has one favorite food in the entire world, which is sugar. When a ripe mango, fig, or berry falls off a tree and starts to rot, the yeast lands on it and eats the sugar, and as it digests that sugar, it releases carbon dioxide, which makes bubbles, and a chemical called ethanol, which is simply the scientific word for alcohol. This process is called fermentation, and to most animals, a rotting piece of fruit smells disgusting, but to a hungry ancient primate, that smell meant something completely different. It meant free calories. In the wild, calories are everything because they let you run from danger climb trees and keep your heart beating another day. Fresh fruit high in the treetops is difficult to reach, and every bird, monkey, and climbing animal is fighting over it, but once fruit falls to the ground and starts fermenting, most animals leave it alone because it smells too strong. Here's the twist though. Gram for gram ethanol contains about 7 calories, while sugar contains about 4, although fermented fruit also contains less sugar because the yeast has already consumed some of it, making it a valuable source of energy for animals that could safely eat it. But there was a massive catch, because if an animal ate too much fermented fruit, it could become dizzy, lose its balance, and fall asleep, and in a jungle full of predators, that could easily become a death sentence. So to safely take advantage of this energy-rich food, our ancestors needed a biological advantage, and about 10 million years ago, they got one. Scientists call this the drunken monkey hypothesis, first proposed by biologist Robert Dudley. Around 10 million years ago, the shared ancestor of humans, chimpanzees, and gorillas lived through a major climate shift where forests became drier, fresh fruit became harder to find, and food was running out. Then a lucky genetic mutation appeared in an enzyme called ADH4, which helps break down alcohol in the body, and this mutation made the enzyme around 40 times more efficient at processing ethanol. Suddenly, these early apes could eat fermented fruit that would have made many other animals too intoxicated to escape predators, and while other species struggled to find enough food, they had access to an abundant source of energy lying on the forest floor. Some researchers suggest that this extra energy may have helped support human evolution, although brain growth was almost certainly influenced by many factors, including meat eating, cooking, and social cooperation. Some scientists have also proposed that spending more time on the ground searching for fallen fruit may have encouraged changes in movement, although the evolution of walking on 2 legs is still widely debated. These ancient apes likely found fermented fruit by following its smell, because alcohol is a light molecule that travels surprisingly far on the wind. And even today, humans have a remarkably sensitive sense of smell for alcohol, which some researchers believe may be an ancient adaptation for locating ripe or fermenting fruit. Now, fast forward millions of years to when humans became fully modern and started building tools and living in early settlements, and this is where the story becomes even more controversial. For decades, the standard explanation was that humans settled down, planted wheat and barley to make bread, and that bread led to farming villages and eventually cities. But archaeologists studying ancient stone tools and containers noticed something unusual. At Raqefet Cave in Israel, researchers discovered stone mortars more than 13,000 years old, containing residue that suggests fermented grain was used to make a beer-like drink before large-scale farming became common. Even more surprising, large stone vats found at Göbekli Tepe, one of the oldest known temple complexes dating back around 11,600 years, contained chemical evidence consistent with grain fermentation. These discoveries have encouraged some archaeologists to consider the beer before bread hypothesis, hypothesis, which proposes that early farming may have been motivated at least in part by brewing fermented drinks for rituals, feasts, and community gatherings, although many researchers continue to debate this idea. If that hypothesis is correct, then one of the biggest turning points in human history, the beginning of agriculture, may not have been driven only by the need for bread, but also by humanity's long relationship with fermentation that stretches back millions of years. So the next time you see a wobbly bird stumbling through the grass, remember it might be reenacting a tiny piece of a story that helped shape the journey of our own species.